You're ready to begin.
Okay, thanks, Debbie. This is Sue Reynolds with the Student Achievement Institute, and happy to welcome all of the schools who started participating in redesigning school counseling in 2016. So for some of you, you were beginning the renewal process, and for others of you, you were starting out as a first-year school. But we have all of you meeting together on this webinar as we talk about preparation and just kind of these final steps for making sure that we've done everything we need to do to earn or renew the Gold Star Award and the Ask a Ramp Award. So, okay. So I'm going to start out with a little bit of a review. Just remembering back to why we're doing this and what the whole foundation of RSC is all about. So just remember that when you started this process, almost a year and a half ago, that you were, well, just over a year ago, you were really looking at creating a school counseling program that would help students make sound choices in areas that impact academic success. So I hope after all of these webinars that we really have, hit home with you that the whole focus of doing RSC is helping kids make sound choices. And really, the whole focus of your school counseling program is on helping kids make good choices in areas that will impact academic success. So then this was the pyramid that we've been coming back to all throughout the process. And we said that when kids do have access to sound guidance and counseling, they'd make better choices. And as a result of that, achievement would go up. So as you began either renewing or developing for the first time your school counseling program, we started with your school's academic goals. I don't want to lose track of that. Sometimes when we get to this point, people forget, where we started. And we started by pulling out the academic goals in your school improvement plan. And then, if you remember, we talked with your council and we said, okay, for our school to reach those goals, what choices do our kids need to make? And a lot of those choices, as I've read over your plans, have to do with student engagement. They have to choose to come to school, to turn in their homework, to ask questions in class. But other choices involved kids being healthy in a social emotional way, as well as kids making choices that would help them prepare for their future in post-secondary ed and also in careers. So we really looked at in all three parts of the school counseling scope, academic, social, personal, and career, what choices did kids need to make in order for your school to reach its academic goals. And then once we knew what those choices were, then we got busy on designing the school counseling program. And you looked at making a couple of decisions. The first one was what delivery methods you wanted to be in your program, if it were just going to be the traditional school counseling delivery methods, or if you wanted to add in a community-based or a teacher advisor program, or a parent-based, or integrate your guidance curriculum with your academic courses. So we did that, talked about delivery methods, and then we really looked specifically at what activities did you need to put in place. And some of those activities we know will be delivered by counselors, others might be delivered by community organizations. But we worked on specifically putting all those activities in the plan. So this is just kind of another way of looking at what we did. Last school year at this time, we were getting ready. We put together your steering team, and we got all of your organizational structure set up. You collected a ton of data. You surveyed all your kids. The counselors completed time task logs and a student opportunity study. I mean, you really, really spent a lot of time looking at data. And I want to point that out because I know some of you will be continuing with us next year in our Guiding All Kids initiative. Others of you are getting ready to submit an application for Lilly funding or to other funders to go in whatever direction you decided your school needed to go in. But no matter where you're going, I think it's really important when you're applying for funding from anyone to understand that you have a very sound organizational structure right now, and you have a ton of baseline data, and that you've made decisions during your planning process based on that baseline data. So whoever is writing your school's funding grants, you need to make sure, in my opinion, that they understand that you have an organizational structure that's really healthy and sound, and you have a ton of data. Putting that information into any grant application is going to make that application stronger. So, okay, so we did that last school year as we began the planning process. Then we started meeting with your council, and we looked at just introducing them to the whole idea of what what redesigning school counseling was all about. And then your council spent some time dreaming in October of this year. So they defined a vision, and they started, looking at, or revising if you already had one. They started looking at, okay, what are our dreams for kids? What are our dreams for our school counseling program? So then in November, we came back from Dreamland, and we said, okay, to move closer to this dream, what do our goals need to be for the near in near time? And so you set up your program goals, and those were the student choices that you wanted kids to make. So again, when you're writing your Lilly grant, or for any grant that you're writing, or even if you're just sitting down with your school board or your principal talking about the future of your school counseling program, you want folks to understand that you have program goals. And just as a reminder, those are your student choices. Those are the choices that you've defined that you want every student in the building to make. Then we started looking at, okay, in reality, do counselors have the capacity for helping kids make every single one of those choices? And so we looked at where you were now in terms of how you were spending your time and how much time you had available. And then we had an open discussion with your council about how can we get more time? How can we get others to help us do our work? How can we work more efficiently? How can we get more money? And for most of you, schools always tell us that that's a very, very rich discussion. And in that discussion, folks start to say, well, I could help deliver this part of the program, or I could do this non-program task that's assigned to you so that you have more time to do the program tasks. So that all happened in December, January in Step 4A. And then we said, okay, now that we have some expanded time, expanded funding, whatever you anticipated coming in next year, now let's go back to our goals and figure out how many of them can we tackle. Now, for some of you, if you anticipated that next year would be very similar to this year in terms of time available and funding available, the number of priority goals was probably 1 to 3. It was very small because we're not doing anything different with your program, so it would really be unfair to expect you to make a lot of changes for a lot of kids without additional time and funding. So for some of you, there were 1 to 3 priority goals. For others of you, you started thinking, man, there's a lot of money coming in from this Lilly initiative, or maybe I could go to my community foundation and get funding to purchase time. And so for some of you, because of the expanded resources that you were anticipating at this point, you decided that you could do a lot of priority goals. So for some of you, you've got a 4-year plan, and you're thinking, okay, I can bring 10 of these priority goals in the first year, another 10 in the next, the year after next, another 10 in the year after that. So you may be looking at 30 to 40 priority goals implemented over a 4-year span. Just kind of depends on what you envisioned as your increase in time and money. And also if you were envisioning this being a 1-year plan or a 4-year plan. Okay, so we had the priority goals. Then in February, more recently, we came back and we looked at what's getting in the way of kids making those priority goals. Why aren't kids choosing to do the things that we know would be beneficial to them? And we said that for most of you, those things came up in 3 areas. One was that they didn't have the knowledge that they needed to make that choice, and that then would become a guidance issue for our program. Or they didn't have the opportunity to make the choice, which would be another guidance issue with our program. Or they had a social personal thing that was getting in the way of making all sound choices, and then that would imply a counseling issue with our program design. So okay, so we looked at the root causes, and then in March, very recently, we looked at what activities you would put in place to address those root causes, and then who was going to deliver those activities. Was it going to be the counselor? Were we going to put together a teacher advisor program or a community-based guidance? How were we going to embed those activities into the school day? Okay, and then finally we looked at preparation, which actually happened the last time that we met, not today. And in preparation, we talked about, setting up an annual calendar, which was automated in the system. And when you entered your activities, we created the calendar for you. We looked at the Gantt chart to see how to put together a timeline of your major activities, which we know the Lilly grant application, the RFP, was asking for, but it's good for everybody. And really that Gantt chart, if I were still in the schools, I'd be putting that up in maybe the outer office, where the public sits to wait for their meetings with you, or maybe even the teacher's lounge or teacher's workroom. And as each of those steps in the Gantt chart was completed, I would check it off or initial it or somehow show the world that I'm making progress towards implementing this improved school counseling program, kind of an advocacy piece. Okay, then you also created an annual budget, and for some of you, you decided to do fundraising through the Lilly Grant application or through your community foundation or just by asking your principal for money, or however. And then also in preparation, we talked about creating those lesson plans. So for some of you, it was just revising lesson plans that you've already created or just keeping the same ones. And for schools that are just starting, it was creating, lesson plans for your major activities. So, okay. So right now we have all of these strategic plan components created. And this month we're doing just some little odds and ends that we need to make sure happen in order to qualify for the ASCA RAMP Award and the Indiana Gold Star Award. Okay, but before we get to that, we have some details now to the Guiding All Kids initiative. You may realize that the deadline was last Thursday. We had an overwhelming amount of number of schools apply, and because of that, we are going to add another cohort, and we need a few more schools for that cohort, so we're going to reopen the application window. And we'll probably be announcing that tomorrow. So let me just give you these final details. I'm going to go through this really fast because I know we've talked about Guiding All Kids before. But as you're moving forward, this is something that we think that you should consider. We view this as the next logical step for an RSC school, and that is to take a program that is more traditional in nature, where activities are implemented by school counselors, and kind of move it to a more systemic initiative where there's lots of different folks. So one thing we want to emphasize is that this is not an add-on. As we've been talking with schools that have not participated in redesigning school counseling about their Lilly grants, or about grants that they're, applying to their community foundation or wherever, it's not specifically about Lilly. But one of the things that we've discovered is that a lot of those grant applications are a collection of unrelated add-ons. It's nothing that's systemically or foundationally different. It just has the counselors doing more stuff, or the counselors doing different stuff. But it's nothing, the different add-ons are not related to each other. It's just kind of this hodgepodge collection. So we really want to emphasize that Guiding All Kids is not an add-on. It's a foundationally different way to look at the delivery of school counseling. So I really want to emphasize that. It's not an add-on to what counselors are already doing. So it's a system. Okay, we've talked about this before, how it's a system where there's many different types of delivery methods, all helping kids, collectively all helping kids make those targeted student choices. So here are some assumptions that we've made as we've more fine-tuned our thinking and started to developing the materials that we're going to be using with the GAC schools. First of all, we're assuming that GAC schools are going to have money for 4 years, and that what we develop will need to be sustainable after those 4 years with no additional money from your funders. We've also made the assumption that educators, like counselors, are not going to have time during the school day to develop this new program. You know, we don't want to take counselors away from kids and parents to design this program, and we know teachers and your principal, everybody's busy during the school day. So this is something that's going to probably be developed outside of regular contact time. So we're assuming that we're assuming that funding is going to be needed to pay educators stipends for the time that they spend outside of the regular school day developing Guiding All Kids. So we're kind of thinking of this as using funding from Lilly or your community foundation or whoever to create funding that would enable counselors or teachers or principals to have a part-time job developing this new system. Or you can think of it as an extracurricular activity. I mean, we pay teachers extracurricular pay to coach basketball. We think it just makes sense to pay teachers or counselors or principals extra pay to design a whole new foundationally different way to deliver school counseling. And that's a legitimate extracurricular pay. It's a legitimate second job, part-time job on top of your school counseling job. Okay, so, and then we're also assuming from past experience, we know that Guiding All Kids is going to be highly sustainable because nothing in it is going to be funding dependent. When we finish the 4 years, we'll have all the materials we need, the curriculum we need, everybody will be trained. We will have done early use, we will and be at the point of routine use before the 4 years are over. Okay, so now, Guiding All Kids is going to be a two-part initiative. The first part is going to be about strategic planning, where we develop the organizational structure, the vision, the goals, priority goals, root causes, and activities. And in your head, you're thinking, I hope we've already done that. Yes, that's true. So for you guys, part one of Guiding All Kids is over with. You've done that. And you'll start with part two, the activity delivery. So the next couple of slides actually describe the strategic planning phase that will happen for other schools in the first year, but you're going to skip that if you continue with Guiding All Kids. So for you, it will look like this. You're going to have Gold Star already before we start Guiding All Kids, or you will have renewed your Gold Star. So you're going to come in, if you decide to continue with Guiding All Kids, which we think is the logical next step for you, you would come in and set up a different framework that brings others in to help you develop the curriculum and the program. And remember, these people are not just doing it out of the goodness of their hearts or because they love kids, but we're also providing them a stipend or a part-time job to do this. And then in the first year, next year, we'll beef up your community-based guidance initiative. As I looked at your programs that you've developed already for next year, most of you have a small community-based guidance initiative in there. So we want to beef that up, and we want to sequence that with your school counseling activities. So we'll do that next year. The year after that, we'll develop and begin implementing the teacher advisor program. And then begin working this so it goes from early use to routine use by the end of the 4 years. In year 3, we'll continue developing and implementing the teacher advisor program. So this will be a stepped implementation where we develop part and implement in year 2 and develop part and implement in year 3. Then also in year 3, we'll work on academic integration with the tools that will give you. This is actually going to be pretty easy. And then in year 4, we'll give you, you'll develop the parent-based guidance initiative. And again, we're making sure that all of this is coordinated and sequenced with your the school-based guidance. And then in year 4, we'll talk about big time sustaining guiding all kids. So we want you to be at routine use in year 4, so that after year 4, everything just kind of keeps going. Okay, and then part of what we'll give you is we are actually going to give you a TAP curriculum. There'll be 9 activities per grade level, but you don't have to use ours, but we'll provide that for you, that TAP curriculum, if you want it. We're also going to give you a parent-based guidance curriculum. There'll be 4 activities per school year, per grade level. I'm sorry, 4 activities per grade level. And those activities will be web-based and will be designed for parents to sit down with their children at the computer and go through those different activities. So, for example, there may be a little video about bullying that parents would watch, and then there would be a little 2-person skit that parents would go through with their children. Or a talk through different scenarios with younger kids, and the parents then would ask their children, what would you do in this case? So, or it could be for your high school course planning. I mean, there's, these things will be focused on academic, career, and social emotional guidance activities that parents will do with their children. So, okay, so that's kind of the overview and the timeline. I just wanted to show you that when we get the master plan or the framework for each grade level developed in that first year, this is kind of what it would look like, a snapshot of what it would look like. So you'll sit down with your Guiding All Kids leadership team, and you'll say, okay, here's the first choice that we have that we developed this current year. So you'll be saying next year, you'll be saying last year as we developed our plan, one of the choices, one of our targeted choices, our priority choices, was for kids to turn in their homework. And then everybody will just start to brainstorm, okay, who could do what? And it might be that your math teachers say, we could help kids understand how to calculate a GPA and how if they don't turn in their homework, that hurts them. And then maybe the people that are going to be coordinating your teacher advisor program say, we could help kids develop a homework log. We could drop that into the 9th grade TAP program. And then with parents, at that point, maybe a parent would say, yeah, and we could teach parents, what these homework logs are and that they should be checking them every night. So you'll notice that here is this choice, turn in homework. We've got some, 3 different activities here, and the delivery person is not the school counselor. So we're addressing this choice, and the counselors haven't been involved at all, other than to get this organized and set up to begin with. So yeah, so that's how it would work, and then we'd go on to the next choice and then develop all that. So that's the master plan that we'll develop in the first year, and of course that master plan is going to have to be flexible. We'll kind of tweak it each year as we go, and then in 4th year we'll have it where it's pretty set. Okay, here I'm just going to leave this up. I'm not going to go through all of these, but later if you want to, play this when it's the video, the archived video, you can pause on this and look through these if you want some ideas. So here's some sample community activities, sample academic integration, sample parent activities, and then also wanted to just introduce a teacher advisory format. There's all different kinds of formats. So in terms of how this would look in your school, we don't know what teacher advisor would look like in your school. That's what we're going to talk about next year. In some schools, in my school, the teacher advisors met with their advisees once a week for 50 minutes, but I've also worked with schools and coached schools who are setting up advisory once a marking period for 20 minutes. Or it could be once a semester, it just depends on what works in your school. So there's all different kinds of choices to look at when we're setting up teacher advisor, and we'll talk about that in year 2 and 3 as we're setting up your advisory program. Different types of advisory activities. Just wanted to point out like what people would be doing, what kids would be doing in these advisory sessions. So they'd be meeting in their small groups. In some, your school may decide to do a lot of guidance lessons, or you may decide you want to use that time to do a lot of academic advising or relationship building. In my program, we focused on guidance lessons because there was a whole lot I wanted to teach kids as a counselor, and I didn't have time. So, but in my advisory program, I could get in 36 guidance lessons over the 4-year period that the kids were in our building. And once I got it all set up, I didn't have to spend any time on it at all. And remember, setting it up can be a part-time job, and it doesn't have to be for you. It could be a part-time job for one of the teachers, or it could be a part-time job for a collection of teachers. In my school, we had 4 curriculum developers. I kind of guided and coached people, but they did all the work. I just kind of, was feeding them. So, at any rate, so we in our program, a big part of it was guidance lessons that the advisors did with their kids. But one day every, actually 2 days, once a marking period, right after report cards came out, our advisors sat down one-on-one with their kids, looked at the report cards with them, and did academic goal setting for the next marking period. So you can put in that academic advising section. And then we also did just some relationship building things. We wanted to get to know the kids better, and we wanted them to know us better. And so we set up things like Hobby Day, where, the kids, it was like show and tell, and kids brought their hobbies to school and showed us what they did outside of school. And the advisors did the same thing, so that we're all getting to know each other. So different relationship building activities you can build into your advisor-advisee as well. I love advisor-advisee. I think it's the best thing I ever did as a school counselor, was to get that set up, because it really made a difference with the kids. So, okay. So steering team with Guiding All Kids is going to be a little different than what we have now, because we need to spread the work a little bit more. So there'll be a project manager. They just convene the team meetings. There's not a big workload on them. Then there's a coordinator for each of the delivery methods. Those coordinators can also bring in others to work with them, especially that TAP coordinator. We advise that they bring in others. And I'll show you that in a sec. But so they're kind of being like a a program manager or a coordinator of that delivery model. Okay, then in terms of the steering team development, instead, and this is a big difference between what you've done with us in the past and what's coming up with Guiding All Kids. Instead of doing webinars, we're going to do all of our meetings with schools as workshops. It's so much better than webinars. So we'll bring in, I don't know, 10 to 20 schools into a learning community. We'll meet 3 to 7 times a year. I think the average number is 5. In Indianapolis, probably, although if we have enough schools from the north part of the state to create a cohort of north schools, we'll meet in the northern part of the state, and our staff will travel instead of bringing everybody down to Indianapolis. Same thing south, if we can do that. Okay, so the schools meet 3 to 7 times a year, and then here's the typical agenda. So all the schools to come together, the first thing we do is school-to-school sharing. So we put all the schools in a big circle, and the schools just say, here's what we've done since we met last, and here's things that went well, here's things that didn't go well, and then we just start brainstorming. If someone has a problem, then everybody starts, thinking about, okay, how could that school get past that block, whatever it is. So everybody's helping everybody else. And then after that sharing, then we'll do a presentation where I talk, or somebody from our staff talks about next steps. But in addition to next steps, and this is something that we haven't been able to do in webinars because we try to hold the time down to an hour, but in addition to next steps, we'll be developing the leadership skills of that leadership team. So we're going to talk about the change process. What are the stages of team development? What are the stages of change? What do you need to sustain change? So we'll be developing the leaders as leaders, and then we will also talk big time about resistance, especially in the teacher advisor program development. You know, we need to get teachers to want to be advisors. We have a lot of experience with addressing resistance. When our organization was featured by the Association of States School Officers, like you know, all the state superintendents have an association. They featured us in a publication on school change, and what they talked about was how we were able to help schools work through resistance to change. So we will address that big time in our presentations, and then at the end of the day, we'll give your team unstructured time where they can do their planning for whatever comes next. So we figure everybody's there, you know, there's no kids or, you know, other teachers or bells ringing, and let's just take some time when we're together to do some planning before you go back to school. So, okay, so that's going to be really different than what you're used to. And then the other thing that will be really different is the submission reviews. There will not be as many submissions, nearly as many submissions as this year, and there will hardly be any at all rubric items, because every GAC school is going to go in a different direction. Some schools may decide they want to really beef up their parent-based guidance, and they're going to really focus on that. Other schools may really focus on their teacher advisory program. So, you know, we'll be kind of looking at things and putting in, you know, our best, giving you our best guidance, having done this with a lot of schools, but there will not be the rubric items that we've had to check this year to verify you as a Gold Star or RAMP school. So, so it'll be very, very individualized. We will ask you to turn in quarterly one-page summaries. That will be in a newspaper format, and then we'll put those all together into the GAC Times, and we'll distribute that to all of our GAC schools so that people can see what other schools are doing, even schools that are not in your cohort that's meeting together as a learning community. We'll continue to do the active monitoring and with reminders and nudges that we always do with schools, because we understand how busy you are, and then always unlimited on-call support that I know a lot of you have told us how much you appreciate. Okay, and then in addition to your steering team, there will be others that we recommend that you bring to the table, and these people could be steering team members. Your steering team members could wear two hats. So in addition to being a steering team member, they could also be a sixth grade TAP coordinator, or the person that's responsible for data collection, or the documentation coordinator. Documentation, again, we're not worried about documentation for Gold Star or RAMP, but we know that you are going to, or we suspect that you are going to have to provide progress reports for Lily if you're engaged with them, and we'll make sure that you've got everything in place to do that. Okay, so here's the deliverables. I think really nothing, I think I've touched on all of this. The student guidance curriculum and the parent activities, I think that's, you know, that's big time. Okay, there's more deliverables, so, you know, you get quite a lot with this. And then here's the enrollment fee. This is much more expensive than what you've been doing with redesigning school counseling and our webinars, because what you're going to get is incredibly more intense. You're getting a full advisory curriculum. You're getting a full parent-based guidance curriculum. You're getting all of those workshops. We're feeding you at the workshops. You know, it's really intense what you're getting. This represents just our costs. So, you know, we're just covering what we need to in order to make sure that we don't lose money on this initiative. So also, if you are a district with more than 12 schools applying, we can give you a special pricing, because then we have some economies of scale. So you have somebody from your district call us if you think there may be more than 12 schools applying. Okay, there's the timeline. We have we're going to open up, since we decided to add another cohort, we're going to open up the registration once again, and then this Thursday, if you do want to be a GAC school, you need to talk with us right away because we need to make sure that we'd like for your grant writer to come to this workshop in Indianapolis on Thursday so that we can talk about how to write GAC into your Lilly grant application so that it's described accurately and clearly, and we'll also give you a bunch of tips that we think will make your application more competitive. Okay, and then next year, just want to point out that if you apply for Lilly grants, Lilly funding, and you don't get it in next October, or the first 2 weeks in October, we will work our tails off to help you find funding from another source. As a matter of fact, we're going to talk about that a little bit coming up on this Thursday, because if this is a good idea and you don't get that Lilly funding, we don't want you to give up on this idea if you think it's a good fit for your school. So if it's good for kids, then we got to do it. And if Lilly the Lilly funding doesn't come through, then we just need to find a different funding source, and we'll help you do that. Okay, so that's the timeline. The application is online, and actually, let me just go to that page real quickly here. And it looks like this. You just put GAK on the end of our web address, and here it is. There's an overview, there's a video about Guiding All Kids that's up now, and then if you want to see a list of the current GAC schools, they're all listed there, the ones that we've already accepted. So, okay, let me go back. The application is really simple. It's just basically we just need to know who your contact person is. We do want a very short description, a statement from your principal. We just want to know that the principal understands what Guiding All Kids is about and that he thinks it's or she thinks it's a good fit for your school. So this can be one sentence, but it just should convey that your principal understands what you're getting involved in and how comprehensive it is. So so just read through that, and then here's the assurances. The assurances statements we take very seriously. So basically you're saying that you've read the Memorandum of Understanding and that you understand those things. And then here's the Memorandum of Understanding. This is a promise between your school and us, and it goes both ways. It starts out with, here's what we promise to do for you, and it lists all of our deliverables. And as you probably are aware from now, we always meet our deliverables. And then here is what you promise us, and this basically is just saying that you promise to engage fully. It would be a waste of your time if we didn't, and your funding, if we didn't follow through on our deliverables. And conversely, it would be a waste of our time if you didn't follow through. So we want that promise to go both ways. And especially in this case, with this being a competitive application to get into Guiding All Kids, if we turn, there will be probably schools that we end up turning away. And if we do, and then your school doesn't engage, then we've kept out a school that maybe would have engaged. So we really take this seriously, and please, don't tell us that you're going to engage unless you really mean to do that. Okay, and then also, if after those 2 weeks in October we are unable to come up with funding, and if you have applied for the Lilly grant but didn't get it, then you're not obligated to pay us anything. So there is no risk here. You're only obligated to pay us if you apply for the Lilly grant and you get it. Okay, so let me go back to the PowerPoint, and I'm going to pause here and see if we have any questions. While you may be typing in some questions, we also wanted to let you know that we are having we're starting a new cohort of RSC schools. This would be RSC without Guiding All Kids. So RSC starts in the fall. It'll start in October. They'll have a full year to work through our RSC process. And we have applications available now on the RSC website, both school applications and a district application for districts that want to come into RSC. So really, I guess there's 3 different versions three different things that we're offering next year. We're offering RSC as a standalone for first-time RSC schools or RSC renewal schools. So if you know of any new school that was thinking about RSC, they could get into that. We're offering Guiding All Kids for schools that have never done RSC, and then with them we'll do RSC in year one and then condense everything else into the 3 years. And then we're offering Guiding All Kids without RSC, which is the one that's appropriate for you. So Guiding All Kids without RSC, because you've already done RSC, is what you would apply for. Okay, I'm going to come up for air. I've been trying to talk really fast. And Debbie, what questions do we have? And then we'll move on to the year-end activities.
We have no questions.
No questions. Okay. Okay, so let's move into the year-end activities. So these are the final things that are due for Gold Star and RAMP. And just as a to kind of clarify, these things really don't have to do with program development or design, but they're just some odds and ends that either Gold Star wanted to have or ASCA wanted to have. So we'll look online and kind of finish this up online then. So I'm going to, let's see, go back to, oops, let me go back. Well, here, let me just log in again. And I'm logging into my demo school. And here we go. Okay, so you'll log in. And then go to the process page. And then scroll down to the very last section. And second to last section where it says miscellaneous. This may change to a different title that says Gold Star / RAMP final activities. So this point in the video, which Debbie, we want to make a note that this started around 3:20. That'll make it easier for Amy to find. So everything from this point on in this webinar will be archived right here. And so you're going to upload the Advisory Council agendas. And one little note on that for the renewal schools, and Debbie, correct me if I'm saying this wrong, because right now I don't have my, here it is. So for the renewal schools, when you get to the rubric on the Advisory Council agendas, it's going to say that you've uploaded 6 agendas from 6 meetings. And with you guys, because of this Lily kind of transition that we did in the middle of the year, you only ended up with 5 meetings. So when you see 6 in the rubric, just change that to 5 in your head. Okay, so job description, again, if you're renewing, you could just use the job description that you already developed. Just make sure it's still true for you. If you're developing this for the first time, in the tools column, all through this, you can see there's a lot of tools in this section. This is a sample job description that goes along with the RSC model. So yeah, so you could look at that job description, tweak it or whatever, and then just upload your job description. Individual counselor management agreements, that is a document that is a requirement for ASCA RAMP and therefore is also a requirement for Indiana Gold Star. It's an agreement that each individual counselor signs with the principal, and it's going to cause you to take some of your priority goals and your activities and to handwrite or type them into this document and do it in a way for each individual counselor. So, and that could change from counselor to counselor depending on how much you differentiate your staffing. For example, in my school, one of our counselors did nothing but individual and group counseling, didn't have a part of the alphabet, that's all they did. And then another one of our counselors focused on just the career guidance activities and that curriculum, and then I focused on the academic guidance curriculum. So depending on how you differentiate the staff, this could change counselor to counselor. At any rate, you're going to have one of these documents for every counselor in your building. They do not have to be, my recommendation would be to just make it concise and to not spend a lot of time on it. We just need to make sure that what each counselor is doing is kind of described in there, as well as the goals that counselor is working on, the program goals that the counselor is working on. So, okay, so you'll do that in a very concise way, and then scan those all into one document for all of your counselors into one document, and then upload that. The assurances statement, there are just a couple of things that we need you to assure that we couldn't think of any documentation that would reflect that. One is that the counselors are following the ASCA ethical standards. Another is that all of your counseling activities are provided by a licensed school counselor, school psych, or school social workers. You're following all rules and state rules and regs. So just read those assurances. I think there's like 5 or 6 of them. That's one document. Sign it, date it so that it's current, and then upload that to us, please. Program brochure, if you don't have one, this will take you to a place where it actually is going to take you to a Google search that will come up with lots of different samples of school counseling program brochures. Public relations, this is anything that where you've advocated for your program with the public, so with your school board or with your teachers or the community or parents. So like if you did anything, you know, with your kindergartners, with your kindergarten parents to help them understand what school counselors do, that would be public relations. The other thing that you could use there is, I'm going to jump down to step 14. Step 14, this is a ASCA requirement and therefore an Indiana Gold Star requirement, where you have to present your school counseling program portfolio to your school board. And I'll talk more about that in a minute, but when you do that, that is public relations. So you could count this as your public relations step. Okay, professional association membership, I would just, this is for at least one of your school counselors has to be a member of a professional association. So that could be ASCA or ISCA or IAC, you know, it could be lots of different organizations. Scan a membership card, or what a lot of folks do is, you know, they'll have a recent copy of the ASCA counselor that came from ASCA. They'll just scan the front of that shows the mailing label on it, so that proves that they're a member of ASCA. Upload professional development, anything that you've done throughout redesigning school counseling that shows that you were a participant in redesigning school counseling. So like, you know, one of the reminder memos that that GoToMeeting sends you about professional development, I mean, upload that to us, or, you know, scan that and upload, print it, scan it and upload it to us. Or if you went to the ASCA conference, you know, send us a page of the conference program, or, you know, just anything that shows that you've been involved in professional development. If you've taken a course, that would be professional development. If you've read a book, scan the book that you've read with a statement that says that you read it. Yeah, so just get us anything on that. Now, the narrative questions, that's an ASCA requirement. There's some things that they just want you to talk about. So I'm going to show you how we're handling that. And again, if you have already done this and you're renewing your Gold Star, all of this will already be complete. If you're doing Gold Star for the first time, you'll have to fill these in. My recommendation is to not spend a lot of time on this. We're just needing to make sure that you've described how you, that you've answered the narrative questions. So let's look at the first one, counseling services. Here is the prompt, please describe the counseling services provided by your school counseling program. So you can do this in one sentence. We provide individual brief counseling, group counseling, consultation, and referrals, period. I mean, that's all you really have to do is just list the type of counseling activities, crisis counseling, you know, whatever you're providing. So in some schools, you know, you might write, currently we only provide crisis counseling, but in our new plan, we have we are now going to implement group counseling and individual brief counseling um, in the coming school year. So just kind of, you know, describe that to us. So each of these has a prompt. Now, some of these are process-based, and if they are, we have taken a stab at writing the answer for you. So for example, if you go down to philosophy, which we equate with our vision statement, and you click on that, the question is, how was your vision statement developed? And we, based on how we think you developed your vision statement, we wrote that in here. On the next one, why were the various components of your vision statement included? You know, we wrote, you know, our why for why we put those parts of the vision statement in there. So what you would need to do is just read this, what we've put in. If it doesn't fit your school, just take it out and start over. But if it does fit, you know, use it or tweak it if some of it fits. You know, we just tried to save you some time wherever we could by writing those responses for you. The other thing that I'd suggest is that if you have a steering team of 4, just divvy these up so that, you know, one person doesn't have to do all of these. If everybody does like 5 or so, you know, you can get these done pretty quickly. Okay, so that's the narrative questions. Monitor the portfolio submission status. So every time there is a submit button here, there will be a in the status column, a status will appear. So yeah, Debbie, help me out here. Why aren't I seeing a status column out here? Shouldn't I be?
Well, you're in the demo school.
Oh, I'm in demo school. Okay, yeah, my bad. So in yours, when you go in, there's a status column out here at the end. So what we want you to be checking on is that every time there's a submit button, there should be a status next to it that says meets criteria. So as soon as all of these statuses, as soon as each status says meets criteria, all the way down for each submission, then you've got gold star. So what we want you to do is, you know, just be monitoring those for each status icon. It should say meets criteria out here. Okay, so you're monitoring the portfolio submission status, and then you can choose to publish the portfolio online. And let me show you how to do that. You just click this entry, and you're getting a little note that right now it's not published, and if you publish it, this is what's going to become public. Your vision statement, program goals, your council roster, program activities calendar, and all you have to do to create a website where your portfolio is published is click this publish button, and then that creates a website. I'll show you in a sec. And then if you just change your mind and you don't want to publish it, just check unpublish. If you want to see what this is going to look like, you can click View the Published Portfolios, and here they all are. And then you can just, you know, pick one that that you know you'd like to see. Just open up Crown Point, and this is actually then the website that they can take people to. So I could take this URL and link it to my school's website to show people our school counseling program. And they'd be able then to, they're not going to have these, they won't get these tabs over here, but they'll be able to see your school counseling roster and your vision statement, your program goals. This is exactly what it would look like, except the only reason I'm seeing these tabs is because I'm logged in now as the school, but the public won't be logged in, so they won't see those tabs. Okay, so that's that. Now, a nice thing you can do with this is, let's say that regardless on let's say that you've published this, and now you need to have a meeting with your school board where you show them your school counseling program. And maybe you can't get a face-to-face, time on the agenda to do that face-to-face, or you, for some reason, don't want to do it face-to-face. What you could do is you could send an email to your school board and say, we've been involved in this great thing called Redesign School Counseling, and we have a vision-based, data-driven school counseling program that we'll be implementing next year and then evaluating at the end of next year. And we wanted you to have a look at it and get any feedback that we can from you. And so then you'd give them a link to this, and they'd be able then to go in and open up your vision statement and your goals, and they would then send you a return email that says, oh, this is wonderful. So that would satisfy that requirement to share this with your school board. It's also a great advocacy tool because it shows them that just like math and English and science and social studies, there is a school counseling curriculum. And I'm thinking ahead, if they ever have to riff, I want people to understand that they're not riffing a position, but they're riffing a program. And I think this will help to do that. I also think it would be much better to do this face-to-face, but I know that some of you, for whatever reason, aren't able to do that. So this is an advocacy piece, and can definitely it can definitely count for that advocacy step that we looked at, public relations steps that we talked about earlier. Okay, so we just talked about presenting to the council or to your school board, and you can just enter and verify that you've done that. Here's the rubric items for all these miscellaneous activities. And then at the very end, we would like you to submit your portfolio and let us know that you're finished. So we are going to suspect that you're finished because all of these criteria is, each criteria is going to say meets criteria. Each status is going to say meets criteria. At that point, we think you're finished and we think we're ready to approve you. But we need you to tell us, I'm not going to make any more edits. And the way that you tell us that is by submitting. And Debbie, I'm not seeing that too. Let me log in as a real school just to look at this page because I want to show people what that's going to look like. So I am going to log in as Debbie. Who should I log in as? Sorry, I'm kind of putting you on the spot. A 2016 school.
That's okay. You can log in as Central Elementary.
Okay, let's do that. Central Elementary.
Beech Grove.
In Beech Grove. There's a million Central Elementaries. Okay, here's Central Elementary. And I'm going to become them, go to their school page, and we'll just look at your process page so I can show an active school. Okay, so at the very bottom, yeah, and then see here, see the status and how everything that's been submitted meets criteria. So that's what we want to see. And then when all of those things meets criteria, then we know that you're ready for Gold Star. So the very last thing you're going to do is you're going to send an email to Debbie. Is this correct, Debbie?
That's my email address, but if you want to submit button, we'll have to talk to Amy.
Just a sec. Let me check one other thing. I'm sorry. I thought we had done this for the 16 schools as well. Let me look at 17. It may be just that we don't have this updated. Okay, so 17. Yeah, we'll edit the bottom of your page as soon as we finish the webinar. So we need you to communicate with us that RSC is complete. And so you're going to submit in that the RSC completion notification ASA. So just hit this button and that will let us know that you're ready for us to review. And then monitor the list of completers. This will open up a website, a web page that lists everybody that has earned Gold Star ramp. So after you submit, give Debbie a few days to kind of finalize everything and then look for your school's name here. Notice the deadlines on these, June 15th. And then also, if you are planning on, if you are on submitting a PGP log to us so that we can get you a PGP certificate, please do that by June 15th as well. And then rubric items. Okay, I think that wraps up the year. And again, I will make sure that your page looks like this for your last step as well. One other thing I forgot to say is that if you are a, let's see, if you are a renewal school, there was one other thing in your list of things that needed to be done at the end of the year, and that was the benefit statement. So if you're a renewal school, you've already got that benefit statement already written from last time you did Gold Star, but we just need you to check it, edit it if you need to, and then upload it to us. And that statement, that benefit statement, will be an additional step that you'll have in this last section. So, okay. Debbie, what do we need to clarify from your perspective? Anything we need to add, and are there any questions?
I have one comment and then two questions. The advisor council meeting agendas, can you explain where they find those and how they would put them together?
Okay, well, the agendas would be the whatever agendas you passed out during your meetings. And if you've got 5 meetings, remember there's only one document that you can upload, so you can't upload 5 different agendas separately. So you'll need to scan those into one PDF and then upload that PDF. So for each in the manual section, we gave you a suggested agenda, but we're not sure if you followed our agenda exactly as we wrote it, and probably you did not. So take the agenda that you used and then upload those to us as one document. Did that answer that question or that comment, Debbie?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, perfect. Okay.
Trudy asks, the assurances statement has signature line for director of guidance, and we have no director. Can the principal sign it?
Yes. Yes, although, yes, if you don't have an official director of school counseling, it can just be the principal. Although in most schools that have like just one counselor, we would consider that counselor to be the director of himself or herself. So I direct myself, but so it'd be perfectly fine for the school, if you're in a building with one counselor, for the one counselor to sign as well.
Okay, and then Julie asked, since I will not likely have everything completed by the May school board meeting, but the June board meeting does not take place until after June 15th, can I just enter the actual date of the June meeting?
That's a good question. And tell me, say that again, Debbie, on the May, what's the first part about that, about the May meeting?
Since I
Too
will
late to
not
get on the agenda?
likely have everything completed by the May school board meeting, but the June.
Okay. Yeah, I think the best thing to do would be to try to do the May meeting, even though you don't have everything completed, and just kind of do it as a progress report. And you'll have some things. I don't know, like how much you won't have completed, but if you think about the big parts are your vision statement. So if you're going face to face, what I would take with me if I were doing this, I would say, we met with the council, and I'd provide, either put up on the screen or provide the council roster, and because I think it's important that the board realizes that it wasn't just you, that you had a broad base of input into this design. So I'd give them I'd talk with them about who all wrote this plan, and make sure that they understand you have a council. So you've got that done. I'd share the vision statement and say, this is our dream, this is where we were headed towards, and I'd either bullet out on a PowerPoint what the main components of that vision statement was, so they could see how lofty it was, or I just give them a copy. And then I'd say, we aligned with the school's academic goals, and maybe again bullet that out on a PowerPoint, or give that to them taken out of your school improvement plan. And then I'd really focus on, so what we wanted to do in our school counseling program was help kids make the choices that they need to make in order for our school to realize our academic goals. I think that is a huge selling point for RSC, and I think it will be hugely appreciated by your school board, that your school counseling program is integrated and supports the academic achievement of your kids. So I'd really focus on the student choices. I maybe wouldn't give them the list of all 70 or 80 student choices that you want to help kids make, but I would definitely give them a list of the priority choices and really focus on our whole school counseling program is focused on those priority choices. And my guess is you probably already have those, unless you're like haven't done a lot, you probably have those priority choices in place. And then, then to go on to say, so we had to think about, we knew we probably weren't going to have, funding to hire a new counselor. People that don't have money for you really appreciate it when you recognize that they can't give you more money because they would like to, but they don't have it. So I would just say, we knew we weren't going to have money for another counselor, so we started brainstorming about, who could help us deliver this, and we decided to put in place a teacher advisor program or a community-based guidance initiative, and kind of talk about the different delivery methods that you're using. Almost all schools use some type of community-based guidance, so you can talk about how you try to beef that up to expand your resources, and then go into activities if you have them developed, and say, so here's a list of our activities. So unless you're really behind, I think most of that stuff you probably are close to finishing. You may not have your lesson plans written, but they don't need to see your lesson plans. You may not have your brochure and your job description and all of that done, but they don't need to see that either. What they basically, I think they need to see is who developed the system. So your roster, your vision, the academic goals that you're trying to help with, your priority goals or the student choices that you're wanting kids to make, and then your delivery methods, and your activities. Yeah, and you could probably get all of that on 3 pieces of paper if you're just handing them a document, or on 5 or 6 PowerPoint slides. So I would go ahead to your May meeting and get that done so you can just complete. And then finish everything up by June 15th. So yeah, that's a good question, and it makes me I appreciate that question, because it made me think that next year when we're doing this, it probably would be good to create a template for a PowerPoint presentation for schools to use with their school board. So we'll do that. Unfortunately, not enough time for you guys to use it, but we'll get that on board for next year. So, okay, other questions?
Yes, and still in the same vein of the board, school board presentation.
Okay.
Is a presentation to the board required?
It is required. It's required for ASCA. So yes, and because Gold Star is aligned with ASCA, anything that ASCA wants, then Gold Star also has to make sure that they address. So yes, it is required. However, it doesn't have to be face-to-face. We have some flexibility in how the presentation is done. So you can present in an email, or you can present face-to-face.
Okay, and Kate asks, I won't be able to attend the May board meeting. Can I just make a presentation for the board to be given at the May board meeting, which I think you answered? We're not doing the Lilly grant or getting anything to change dramatically next year.
Yeah, that would be fine. So you could have somebody else make that presentation on your behalf face-to-face. That would be fine. And again, you could just do, the email that, just says, so like what I do with people that I want to stay on their radar is I always do, I'll request a meeting, and I'll just say, I just want to stay on your radar. This is the annual update. So it might be, that you get into the practice of each year sending your board an email, or asking your superintendent to forward on an email saying, we're involved in Gold Star School Counseling, and this is our annual update to the board. So, and just if you publish your plan, you can just give them the link to the plan and say this is available for your review, and we'd love to hear any feedback that you have. So yeah, and that's good feedback for us too, to understand that for a renewing school, the program may not be real different year to year. So and it's fine too. Like sometimes when I'm doing an annual update with our board, I'll just say, okay, this is a steady as she goes year. We're not making any big changes, and then I'll just kind of go through what we've been doing and say, it's going to be more of the same in the coming year. So yeah. Okay.
Okay, and yes. Christina asked, would it be okay if I present to the central office superintendent and 4 assistants instead of the school board?
Unfortunately, it specifically says school board in the ASCA rubric, so it needs to be school board.
Patty asks, for some reason I thought this was also optional, but actually I think the section is just optional, right?
Right. The section is optional. So we have schools that do RSC without the intention of applying for Gold Star, and they just want to have a good plan, especially with this Lilly initiative. A lot of schools got involved with RSC as their planning phase for Lilly with no intention of earning Gold Star. So if you're not interested in earning Gold Star, all of this would be optional. But if you are interested in earning Gold Star ramp, yeah, this is a requirement. I think actually, Patty, that changed, like, I don't know, 4 years ago or so. I think in the beginning it was an optional thing from ASCA, but it's a requirement now.
And Julie says, thank you. I feel much better about this, and that's all we have.
Okay, thank you, Julie. So again, we just so much appreciate the work that you guys are doing to make sure that you have a data-driven program that's really focused on the needs of, the specific needs of your kids. And I think that probably nobody understands how much work this is and how many little tiny rubric items you had to meet, and but we understand that, and I am so impressed with the schools that do Gold Star, and looking at the growing number of those schools in Indiana, I just think that Indiana school counselors are fantastic. So if you need any help from us, as you're writing for funding from anybody, Lilly or your community foundation or a business in the area, please don't hesitate to call on us. Oh, we will be disseminating, I think this Friday, but maybe not until next Tuesday at the latest, a template for the Lilly RFP, for the Lilly application. So that we'll send out to all of our schools, and then within that template, whoever's writing your grant, there will be links to different things. So it'll say, oh, the grant is asking for goals. Here, click this link, and if you give them your username and password, it would open up your priority goals for them to look at. So we'll send that all to you later. It would be something that if you are applying for the Lilly grant, I'd make sure that your grant writer sees that so they can open up your information. Or if nothing else, it'll give you a sense of what we think applies in that RFP from your RSC work. So, okay. That said, one more check for questions, Debbie?
Nope, that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, everybody, and thanks to Debbie for working with y'all and all the phone calls that you made to her. One of the things I really like about and take pride in our organization is our on-call support. And since we've been able to ramp that up in the past couple of years, I've been really pleased with how much the schools have been taking advantage of that. So as always, don't hesitate to call, and I think the next time we see you, it'll maybe next November as you're stepping up to get your renewed Gold Star or your first time Gold Star. So one other thing, as soon as we verify that you've met all the requirements, so as soon as all the status says meets criteria and you've clicked that button that says that you're finished making edits, everything's automated at that point. You will automatically get an email from Amanda that explains to you, Amanda Cullen at DOE, that explains to you, you know, what to do in terms of getting the RAMP award, and invites you to the ISCA conference to receive your award. So all that's kind of automated. As soon as everything meets criteria and you tell us you're finished making edits, you'll get that email from Amanda and it's good to go. So, okay, that sounds good. Thanks, everybody, and I wish you all lots of luck as you're closing out your school year. And I know that's from experience, I know that's really, really a hectic time. So good luck to everyone. Thanks, everybody.